I tend to go for about 7.5 inches. That gives me enough room to play. Let me double check this one. This one is actually a little lower. This is a 4. So I'll show you why. Oh, just kidding. I clipped it in this way. Exactly, so it's a 6 and a 6. So this is actually the bottom of my design. Whatever the bottom is, that's the part which should be in the clip. When you turn these down, do one on the left, one on the right. Don't crank down one or else you won't get the other one to go down. So a little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. Again, that's the bottom, and here is why. The platen goes on pointy side out. That means the neck is facing outward. So you're printing everything upside down. Oh. It'll be much clearer when I get a shirt on this. So that's how it's got to go, because you would not be able to put it in neck side forward around this entire thing. My demo t-shirt. It's got to go neck side out, under the flatten, and then we align. Everyone see why it has to be upside down now, right? You can't do it in reverse. You can't switch it up. So if it's in the track, I can move this. I haven't tightened these bolts, so this can move. Why I like to do it 7 inches is it gives you a lot more mobility. If everyone can look on the side, I can't move it any closer than it currently is. Like, it doesn't go in anymore because it's contacted with the machinery. So you have a very little wiggle room. It's about 4 inches. So make sure you measure. I would always clip in my screen. And when you measure, you're measuring from the edge of the screen, not the tape. That's because the tape is going to be different on every one of your screens, right? So when I measure this one, I can't tell which side I clipped in. This is kind of a bad one too. Let's try this one. When I measure it, again, you'd be doing this in the exposure room. It's about 9 and 9. By doing so, you get a lot more mobility and you can adjust things. So in we go, perfectly center. So I would say 9 is sort of my sweet spot currently. So, second step, you would put glue on this. I'm not going to do this right now just for the sake of our demo, but you want your t-shirt to be in the same spot every time. So, very technical supplies. Paper tape, Sharpie, doesn't matter. I just put it down. Oh my god, this tape is so old, it's ripping apart into every little bit. There we go. You put it on the neckline area, it doesn't have to be precise. Feed your shirt in. And we have a nice little guide area. So normally what I like to do, once I found my placement, draw a little curved line right on the neckline, and now I can align it to the same spot every time. Cool? Some things that will help is when you're placing a shirt, because I'm sure everybody is going to do printing and placing shirts at some point. You want to look for the seams. That's how I center it. I think that's the most common mistake is the design is up here or down here. You want to be perfectly centered, so I normally use the seams. So that's the shoulder seam and the side seam. You want to make sure it's even on both sides. So normally I lift like this. When you're pulling it off, the pulling off technique is actually way more important than you think. Pull off from the bottom. I can start here, stretch, pull forward. Now it's all loose, and then I can just grab it from the shoulders. So pull back, then grab from the shoulders. I'll do it one more time. That will save your ass. Ooh. So again, it's stuck to the press. I'm grabbing from the bottom, pulling outward. It's loosened, and I can just grab it off the top. Cool. Some other things. This has micro registration. Micro registration is really fucking hard to use. So what that means is it moves in diagonal planes. So you can move the screen when it's clipped in. These are the locks right here. So to use micro registration, though I don't recommend it, but if you must, you must. Unlock 2 big locks. This one moves diagonally that way. This one moves diagonally that way. So if you watch it, it's really weird. I hate using it for this exact reason. Do you see like, it's sort of like doing that sort of motion? That's really hard to be precise. If you're doing like a 4-color t-shirt, yeah, that's probably helpful to you. But for our purposes, for your project, I really don't think it's helpful. The best way, honest to God, that I can like give you, unclip it, move it around, you're like, that looks good to me, clip it in. That's the best way. Cool? And if you have measured correctly, you should not have to do any up and down. If you've measured correctly, you should not have to do any up and down, just side to side. Cool? Awesome. So obviously make sure these are locked. Make sure these are locked. But this press is fully mobile. So you can move it to any point in the lab. I tend to like to print here because I have a lot of rack access. That's just a recommendation. Other people love to print over there in that big open space. Up to you. Just make sure if the lab is open, you're out of the way so other people can work, obviously. But when you've picked your spot, gotta lock it down. So casters, obviously, you lock it, but the second line of defense are these things. They are called levelers. You rotate them down. Everyone see, they make these little feet. So that way this doesn't move when I have all 4 of them down. That's super important. If you start printing and it's like slowly shifting towards the wall, your registration is gonna be all over the place. So lock it down. It's the same thing as checking to make sure your screen is locked into those clamps. Cool? Any questions? Any concerns?
I was thinking, how many plugins do you have? Because I see that there's like
I have 4.
So you can print like 4 at a time, basically.
Technically, I will say, it gets chaotic.
Yeah.
People can get hurt if you're using a bigger screen. So, this screen's pretty manageable, but if we clip one of your graphic designer size screens on here and we start spinning it, like that can really hurt somebody. So, I will say, like, be careful. Some of these are also better than others. So do some tests, like some of these like setters. For example, this one. That one's really good because there's no play. But if I put it in, there's one that I'm like, oh, this is the one.
Oh, yeah.
See? There's play. I don't like that. That means your registration's moving this much every single time. So I'm actually gonna put this white piece of tape. Like, don't use that one. I can reset it, it just takes me a minute. But yeah, you can run like 2 or 3 at a time. I would say doing 2 is probably the best, doing one here and one on the other side, and then you have like rack person over here, rack person over here, you know?
Yeah.
Catching a good flow. Obviously, this is really important to clean up after yourself. I really hate it when I find the platens all gummy with glue. So, as I said, the t-shirt glue is stronger, so you're gonna have to maybe use a little more elbow grease. Feel free to soak it up with this guy. This is the glue breaker downer, so use that generously. No ink on like this kind of bed. It's a little grimy right now, but no huge clouds of ink, you know. Please keep our stuff nice. This is a really nice press, and it's really new, so I'm trying to keep it in pretty good condition. Any other questions? No? Okay, let's talk about after hours, because that's important for you all. So, gotta be requested 2 days in advance. You can book a whole bunch of dates if you tell me about it, like, well in advance, please. I want to be confident on your screen printing ability. So I feel like everybody here, I've taught you how to print or you've seen me print, so I feel pretty good about that. Please try to shoot when somebody is here. You know, try to get all your exposures done like during open lab hours or when I'm here. We can always schedule a time. The lab is closed this week. We open on Monday, but if you want to come in and work this week, send me an email like after this, okay? Because it's possible you guys can come in and code or whatever you need to do, but it has to be like a scheduled thing. Is that good? After hours, no friends, no homies. This is the biggest issue we have is it becomes like a lab party. And I'm like, no, please, please, please.